There is some wild stuff happening with AI right now, with models being better than ever, the US investing $500 billion in AI infrastructure. Needless to say, firms ought to be investing in getting comfortable with AI tools. And as much as I would love for Microsoft to be the solution for that, man, it just isn't. Right now, ChatGPT is still light years ahead. So today, honestly, we're not doing anything too complex. I want to show you 26 features inside of ChatGPT that you may not have been aware of that will change how you use it on an ongoing basis. Let's jump straight in with something that isn't really a feature, but maybe the most important thing you decide. That is what version of ChatGPT you use. You've got 3 basic versions, Free, Plus, and Pro, but that's not what you want to use. What you want is down here, Team. Why, you ask? Scroll down further, you'll get the full feature comparison. You get access to like the models you want to use and all that. But the real thing we're looking out for here, this, privacy. Content is used to train the models. Under the team plan, that is never the case. This was the big spooky issue with AI early on. Well, my prompts and the data that I give it are being trained into the model. That's not the case. Hasn't been the case for a while. Use the team plan, will never be the case. Also, some team-specific features, unified billing, being able to share stuff with your colleagues only inside the organization. But the other biggie, look at this, SOC2 Type 2 compliance. That's a big deal. In fact, that is a higher bar for security than most of the tools in our space have today. The 9 practice management systems that I recommend for firms, only 2 of them are SOC2 Type 2 compliant. So all the spookies about AI security, stack this up against the other tools that you use, make a first principles decision based on whether ChatGPT is secure enough for your firm or not, rather than relying on like 2-year-old news headlines. Second feature I want to show you, very important. Come up here to the top right, go down to settings, security, multi-factor authentication, enable multi-factor authentication. Most data breaches these days are not back-end breaches, but rather somebody getting access to an app that they're not supposed to have access to. Multi-factor authentication eliminates 90% of those cases. I know it's a hassle, it's annoying. Turn it on. It is the responsible thing to do when you're working with client data. Another kind of cool security thing, check this out. Number 3, temporary chats. Hit your little model selector drop down up here, toggle this bad boy on, boop. It's kind of like incognito mode for your ChatGPT. Like if I wanted to give it a picture of some red bumps that I've got and I'm not sure what they are. What a disgusting example. Just keep this feature in mind. These conversations are ephemeral. There's no risk of somebody then getting access to your account and being able to see it. If I'm gonna run an analysis for a client, I'll probably just use this because it's a one and done kind of conversation. Honestly, 80% of my ChatGPT conversations are temporary chats. And it's not because of the red bumps thing. Number 4, memory. Another thing to look out for here in settings. Under personalization, by default, ChatGPT will remember certain things that you tell it to try to improve the experience. So for example, I just got a puppy. Cool. My wife's name is Tina. I like concise responses. These memories will shape the responses that it gives you, sometimes in helpful ways, other times in ways that actually can steer results in a way that you don't want. I kind of don't like it taking that control, and so I turn it off. And you can manage the quote unquote memories that it has about you. You can clear them out if you don't like them. But just something to look out for that can be impacting the responses that it gives you. Number 5, the desktop app for ChatGPT on Windows and on Mac have gotten really, really good. And the biggest problem with ChatGPT right now is just remembering there's a thing to go out and use and having to explain my problem and put it in a chat box. I found myself using ChatGPT much more once I installed the desktop app because it was only a keyboard shortcut away. And as we're gonna talk about in a bit, new functionality is coming that will totally change how ChatGPT interacts with your desktop. Number 6, the mobile app. The mobile app's also excellent. Now, one thing to look out for, if your firm does not have a device policy, that is software on your phone that takes the same security standard you have for your workstations and applies it to like your mobile device, like can I shut it down remotely, stuff like that. Unless you have set that up on your phone, you should not have your work ChatGPT account on your phone. And so if you don't have that, honestly, what I'd recommend is just creating a free ChatGPT account, which is these days actually super fully featured. Don't do work stuff on it, but you'll find day to day, like I use ChatGPT probably 10 times a day with random stuff around the house. You can do that with a totally free account, and it develops that muscle memory of like, oh, I could go to ChatGPT and get a quick answer for certain things. Arguably the coolest thing actually right now, and you can get it both on the mobile app and on the desktop app, is ChatGPT's advanced voice mode. It's this little black button on desktop. I use it more on the mobile app, but it is an unbelievably rich voice conversation with the AI assistant. Very helpful in a context where I need to interact with ChatGPT, but my hands are tied, exercise bike or working out, working through a problem verbally. Super useful. Okay, number 8, and this is important, know your models. So right now, by default, if I start talking with ChatGPT, it's gonna use the model 4.0. And you see right here, it says 4.0 is great for most questions. 4.0 is like the prom king of AI models. It's good at most things and is very popular. The next one you see here is 4.0 with scheduled tasks. We're gonna circle back to that. 0.1, this is the big brain model. This is the nerd. And you may think that I always want the nerd. I always want the most powerful thing. But this nerd, it takes him forever to get to the point. Everything's just kind of drawn out. Now this model's a huge deal. This is the biggest new thing to AI in the last 12 months. It's a reasoning model where it will actually spend 30 to 60 seconds thinking about the problem and giving you a much higher quality response. It's just not necessary for most of the things that we throw at ChatGPT. But if it is a big, hairy problem that you want it to work through, this is the model for the job. And then 0.1 mini, it's like the nerd's kid brother. Honestly, if I can wait 10 seconds for it to get a job done like 0.1 mini usually takes, I can wait 30 seconds for the full 0.1 to get a better response. And you do get a lot better response with the full 0.1. Now, under more models, this is no man's land. Nobody cares, okay? No reason to use these. Next, file attachments. This bad boy will take just about any and every type of file you can imagine. So you've got a spreadsheet and you wanna work on the spreadsheet. It can do that. You got a PDF, it can do that. Oftentimes it is easier to show it than to describe it. I'm not talking about the red bumps. Next, this little icon here is tools. And this is where you can more explicitly tell it what you want it to do. Now, ChatGPT will try to guess what the best tool for a job is. So for example, I don't have to select anything here, but if I say, make an image of a man talking with his doctor, it's gonna figure out that the right tool for the job there is the image generator. So you can use that tool icon to explicitly identify how you want it to get that thing done. Very nice, but it isn't always necessary. And one example of that here is browsing. So I can toggle this on to say, search the web to get an answer. But here's what I would recommend you do, is get into the habit of delineating between when I just want ChatGPT to kind of make up an answer with what it knows versus when I want it to go and look up an answer. So for example, I take a picture of a broken thing on my dishwasher or the model number on my dishwasher, something like that. I don't want it to try to make up an answer. I want it to go out and find me an answer. So what's a more relevant version of that for our work? Look up the 2024 Roth IRA phase outs. That's a situation where if I just ask for it, it might tell me what it knows from the data that's trained into it, but that's not what I want. I want it to go out to the web and find that. So here it gives me a response, and it actually just pulled it from the IRS. And you can actually dictate in your message, only pull from the IRS website, only pull from this or that. Simply put it in the chat message and then double check your sources at the end. Make sure that's the only thing you wanted it to pull from. Oh, this actually pulled from a bunch of stuff. Let me run that again. I'll just say now just use the IRS website. Gives me an answer. I hit the pop out here and now you can see all the sources are the IRS website. Simple as that. Because the IRS never lies, right? That'll give you the right answer. Next up, Canvas. Gang, this is a biggie. Write a poem about challenging tax clients in Canvas. So you notice the difference in the user interface here. It's now put it into a document that lives alongside the conversation. And if you have ever tried to do like a bit of writing with ChatGPT, you know how annoying it is for it to give you like the full document in a conversation, and then you just want to change one thing, well, it gives you the full document again. The beauty here is on the left, we can talk about the document and updates are made on the right. So I can say, make this more concise. And on the right-hand side, it rewrites that document a line at a time. Now, we can also select things here, say ask ChatGPT, or even do like text formatting so I can pull it straight out of here and use it somewhere else. And again, any changes that I make here, they get retained. So if I say make it even shorter, dang it, I was gonna say the bold and the italics would stay, but it wiped all that stuff out. Actually, fun fact here, you can show past versions and the changes. So it wiped out both the stuff I made bold and the stuff I made italics. Just trust me, any edits you make here, it will keep those edits. But also I can add a line. Here's a new line. And that's now part of the document that it will update if I have a conversation with it. Now down here, these are cool. One, I can ask it to suggest edits. So just say like, how can I make this better? I can adjust the length, which we're kind of doing on the conversation there, right? Adjust the reading level from graduate school to kindergarten. add final polish, and add emojis, which you should never do. That's just terrible. That shouldn't be a feature. Now, another wild thing that Canvas can do, it can write code or scripts for you in that canvas. And I know you're like, I'm an accountant, not a computer wizard. Check this out. Write me an Excel macro to sort by column C and hide every column D and after. I don't know. I could say, put it in Canvas, or I can select the tool for Canvas and send. So now it's generating this code in this separate environment, right? Which makes it a little easier to copy and paste out, or to select part of it and say, I got an error here, can you fix this? Now, one note on Excel macros, it will almost always get the sheet name wrong, and so it won't run because it can't see what the sheet name is. The solution, just give it the Excel file. Upload, attach the Excel file, and then it can pull like the actual sheet names and all that stuff from your spreadsheet. Funny post on Reddit recently of somebody whose job was hustling a huge amount of data in Excel. They basically automated their entire job using ChatGPT to write Excel macros for what they do. Pretty cool. Another thing to be thinking about when you're talking with ChatGPT, visual styles. So let's say I want something presented in a table. Give me a table of random grocery list items and quantities. So here it's formatted it into a nice little table. Geez, that's a long list. But what if I wanted a spreadsheet of this? ChatGPT can create spreadsheets. Now turn it into a spreadsheet. Hit a little download table here, and it turned it into a CSV, which isn't what I wanted. Turn it into an Excel spreadsheet. This is actually pretty cool. CSVs, they have like this sort of built-in table view. It's kind of like Canvas, where you can have a conversation about a CSV next to it. I digress. Okay, here's our Excel file. Boop, bada bing, bada boom. Now, what about work paper creation? Turning this into a PDF. Now put it in a PDF. Drum roll, please. It's a beaut, Clark. You ready to fully jump the shark here? ChatGPT can do PDF annotations. I know, mom, get the camera. Give it a more modern design and highlight the items I'm low on. Okay, drum roll, please. Wow, what a beauty. Look at that, modern design. Interesting color choices. But what if we want to actually instruct it to annotate PDFs the way that our team does when we're creating work papers? Like drawing shapes and arrows and stuff. Now draw red boxes around all the fruits. People are like, give me one example of how AI is saving you time. It's hard to explain, okay? It's better file naming than I do. Grocery list fruits.pdf. That's a swing and a miss, look at that. There's like a weird box next to the apples, next to the orange juice, next to the bananas. Not what I wanted. That worked when I tested it. That's ChatGPT for you. Okay, this is a big one. Let's look at GPTs, creating your own. So I hit explore GPTs and create. This is like a custom assistant for doing a specific job. And all you do is you name it, you give it a description of what it does, translates into pirate pig Latin, and then instructions. Everything the user gives you, provide a version back translated into a piratey sounding pig Latin. And you can actually come straight over here and just test it. How are you today? Iwe amwe udge athke. Okay, you get the idea. Now, conversation starters are the little pop-ups down here. Couple things to look out for here. One, you can give them custom knowledge. You can upload files so that the GPT references those files when giving you responses. You can also control what tools it has access to. Web search, Canvas, which we looked at earlier, image generation, and code interpreter. That is the ability for it to write and execute code to try to get a job done. We're actually gonna look at that a bit more in a minute. If you're looking for an easy use case for this, upload your HR docs, create an HR bot. Actually super useful. You can ask it questions about any specific items that are in those HR docs. Brief nerd detour here. We won't go too far. Actions are a way to connect any third-party service with a GPT as well. This requires a bit of nerd code knowledge, but an example here, connecting it up to, say, a pet store database, you define the data schema and then what available actions there are that the GPT can do. In this case, it can list pets, it can create pets, or it can show pets by ID. And the GPT will just figure out from the course of the conversation which of those actions it ought to use to complete the job. A simple start here is probably calling webhooks, but you could literally take this as far as like pushing and pulling data from a practice management system. Pretty wild. But let's back up, because other people have also published a bunch of GPTs here that you can just swipe and use. We've got some featured ones down here, some created by ChatGPT, data analyst. We're gonna look at that one in a minute. Oh, I forgot to mention, that custom GPT that you just created, you can either share it publicly or just share it with your team. That is another perk of ChatGPT's team plan, is you can share those GPTs just inside your organization. And then on this left-hand side, it will show your GPTs. Client Battler is one that I've made, Sales Coach, Meeting Work Paper Generator. You can share that stuff with your team. Pretty cool. Now, another interesting way to use these, Let's go back to our Roth IRA phase outs. Is mid-conversation, you can actually tag GPTs to do jobs for you. So Whimsical Diagrams does like mind maps and stuff like that. I'm gonna hit the @ sign, and just like you would add a person in Slack or Teams, I'm gonna say @Whimsical Diagrams, and now we're talking with that GPT, but it can see the past conversation history. I'll say, create a diagram of the phase outs. And what it's doing behind the scenes is it's calling an action, just like we just looked at in custom GPTs, to create this image. It did like a mind map, which is kind of weird. But you can also link out to Whimsical and like modify it and do whatever you want with it. Another example is we could stop talking with Whimsical Diagrams and then start talking with Data Analyst and say, calculate the phase out for a single taxpayer with 150K and modified AGI. Now it's doing the math step by step. Looks like I had a weird formatting issue here, but you get the idea. In the course of a conversation, you can throw it to different GPTs that are specialized for different jobs. You can also have it like double check its work. So I'm gonna copy and paste this entire response into a new conversation with the O1 model, which is very, very good at math stuff. This is the model that will sit there and think. So I just pasted this whole thing in. The formatting's totally jacked, but it'll still make sense of it. And it will now like reason through that calculation. And AI right now, like it's actually pretty good at catching its mistakes. It's one of the reasons why these inference models or models that can think get way more accurate, because they kind of have an argument with themselves before they give you a response. Now, I didn't actually give it like authoritative source of what the right phase outs are. So this isn't a perfect test. I was going through it step by step. Step 1, step 2, calculate the fraction of the phase out. This is one thing the O1 model is actually fantastic at. It can solve like PhD level math problems. I don't know that I gave it all the right source data here to like properly test that, but you get the idea. Never be afraid to ask an AI to double check its work, because all it costs you is like a mouse click. Okay, number 24, projects. This is a new one. So if I hit new project, I can say my first project, great project. And within a project, you can have any number of conversations, but you can see I can also add files and add custom instructions so that anytime you have a conversation within the scope of this project, it will reference those files and follow those instructions. Pretty cool. So let's say you're writing a video or working through some like larger thing, and you always want it to be able to go out and look at these, this IRS publication or some source material like a blog post. With projects, any conversations you have inside that project can see into all that source information. Also, look at this. You can also just drag and drop conversations into here. And here it is now. This conversation now lives inside of this project. I actually think 90% of people will just use projects as like a folder structure for their conversations to save conversations they want to come back to, but you get the idea. Now, number 25, recurring tasks. Check this out. I'm gonna talk to the 4.0 model and say, go to the web and pull today's Bitcoin and NVIDIA prices. Okay, there's Bitcoin and there's NVIDIA. Now, I'm gonna flip this to 4.0 with scheduled tasks and say, now do this every Monday. Sure, I'll do that every Monday. Do you want to enable desktop notifications? If that was an important thing that I wanted to see, I'd probably say yes. Now, if I drill into here, I can edit it or I can view all tasks. And now this is a view of all recurring tasks you have ever set up in your ChatGPT. Why is that a thing that you would want? Well, think about the fact that it can web browse. So time-sensitive things where you want to capture it at a specific time, that could be really useful, right? You can even come back and have it summarize all that data into a table or a spreadsheet for you. But the other reason why that's really wild is what's just around the corner. In fact, as I'm shooting this, it may be released this week before the video even goes out. And if that's the case, here's a very sad me having to do a reshoot. So they released it right after I shot that. It's called Operator, and it's a big deal at the same time as it's not a big deal, because you can only get it on the $200 a month ChatGPT plan right now. And spoiler alert, it kind of stinks right now, which is what I expected. It's actually why I'm not like hugely hot on AI agents this year. I'm more hot on them next year. Right now they're slow, they're kind of clumsy, but you can see how this is the future of just getting stuff done, right? What they released is browser automation. It's a little browser that lives inside of ChatGPT and it'll go out and do things. This gets juicier once they have the same thing for your desktop, where all your tools live and all that. I want to be excited about this. I don't think the tech's quite there yet. Maybe 6 months, definitely 12 to 18 months. We're gonna be talking about this way more. So the same way a human user would mouse around and click stuff, you will be able to cut an AI loose to do that for you. And if you just think about the number of recurring tasks that we have that need to be done online, on the computer, moving data from A to B, this is the beginnings of AI actually performing functions as if they are humans for your firm. And that is just so exciting. It won't be amazing when version 1 comes out, but 12 months from now, there's a very good likelihood that that's really changing how we get our work done. And it may be easy to sit back and be like, okay, well, I'll just stay tuned, and when we get there, let me know. The thing is, the people that are building this like comfort level with working with AI today are in the driver's seat to make the most of those future developments. This, in its current state, it's pretty darn useful, but it is a fraction of how useful it looks like it will probably be in the very near future. And this is why we need to be investing time and resources in getting our teams up to speed on how to use these tools in very contextual ways to make our work more productive. And if we wanted to do some cool automation around a client's accounting ledger, how could we do that? With today's sponsor, Liveflow. The music, please. 2 cool superpowers Liveflow unlocks for you. 1, the ability to connect any QBO or Xero ledger to your Excel, to your Google Sheets. We just saw a bunch of cool Excel automation we can do with ChatGPT, but what if you use Liveflow to sync data in, and then you use ChatGPT to write macros to do wild things with that data? Very exciting, right? Second superpower Liveflow gives you, the ability to create super simple web dashboards for your clients that are connected to all the same data. Their accounting ledger. It could pull in data in snapshots or continue pulling in live data, because when you send those PDFs off to your client with the balance sheet and the profit and loss, we love those reports. When your client looks at that, they're like, man, I got no idea what to do with that information. And this is the value of distilling the same information into a better format, more consumable format for your client. Liveflow makes that super easy. To learn more about that one, check out the link down in the video description. Gang, so much kicking off with AI right now. I don't want you to miss the boat. We actually talk about AI a ton on my podcast, much more than we do on this sort of main, like, wider reach channel. That podcast is available on YouTube, also available on like audio only feed. And if you're a ChatGPT user, I would love to hear how you're using it down in the comments. Probably give some other viewers some great ideas. And gang, thank you for coming and hanging today.